every day from now on, I need to be working on something. I don't care what it is. So it's you're like, oh, this is a huge problem. Everything else that's new modern electronics has two general trends that included investors and everyone on down is willing to like go to the ends of the earth for that brand and come
That's
to
cool.
that mission.
Welcome back to the Breakout CEO. I'm your host, Jeff Holman. I'm with Intellectual Strategies, a law firm for scaling businesses and startups. And as I've mentioned before, this podcast is all about bringing you scenes from companies, kind of behind the curtain scenes, right? So that you get to see a little bit of what's happening with companies as they're going through their growth, maybe stuff that's not always advertised as the successes on LinkedIn or whatever, but you get to see a little bit behind the curtain with what we're doing. And today I'm super happy to have Tom Bishop with me. Tom, welcome to the show, Tom.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you were so kind to, I reached out. We've been connected for a little bit, I think, and I saw a LinkedIn post, and every time I see it, I think of these batteries that I've got sitting on my shelf over here. These Paleblue batteries. We're going to get into that. That's your current company. Before we jump into like your background and your history and your chronology or whatever, I like to sometimes ask some of my guests, start out with the easy question, or maybe it's a hard question. I'm not sure which, but like all CEOs, you're a busy guy. You've got a lot going on. We were just talking about kids before this. I know you, if you've got a 12-year-old son, you're in the thick of it. What is it though, despite, all the business, all the successes, maybe some of the challenges, what is it that keeps you motivated from day to day?
Yeah, this is a long one, but there's a series of events in my life, and a lot of them resulted in career decisions that allowed me to contribute to the communities that were important to me. And those communities have expanded, kind of more personal communities into larger groups, into, what I consider now is like a global effort to help people power their lives better. And those decisions along the way have just kind of resulted in larger, more impactful, let's say, missions.
Mm-hmm.
And the nature of those missions has always felt like meaningful enough to get my butt out of bed on hard days, or, when you're tired. It's like having that meaningful nature of the work that you're doing. It creates its own energy, and not beyond just me, like for the team, for the vendors, for the people that we work with, for everyone that's involved in that mission. It's a glue doesn't revolve around me or something or the P&L or those sorts of metrics. It's like we're on this meaningful mission that inevitably is going to take longer than you ever thought. It's inevitable that like the hard stuff takes a long time, but the meaningful stuff makes that time fly by. I think that it just comes down to choosing missions that are meaningful, near and dear to your heart.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the emphasis on community. Have you always had an emphasis on community, or was there a time in your life when, I'm going to guess most of us went through the normal, youth and teenage years when everything was kind of very self-focused, we're looking at ourselves, we're maybe a little bit embarrassed of how we're growing up or whatever. And then at some point, was there a time in your life when you started to say, hey, wow, there's this broader community, like now I've got to focus on something more than just me?
Yeah, so it'll sound a little bit selfish and kind of but maybe for people who grew up in this sort of small background. I grew up in countryside. I found board sports early, was skiing or snowboarding, skateboarding, wakeboarding, kind of in the early days, late 80s, early 90s. And so my community was a small group of friends that we'd go to the mountain together, or we'd go to skate a curb behind the local grocery store or whatever.
Where were you snowboarding, by the way? Because
Song
in the
Mountain
80s, snowboarding that wasn't allowed everywhere.
isn't the thing. Yeah, Song Mountain, upstate New York. 700 and some feet of vertical. You had to take a special test to ride the J bar. You had to take a different test to be able to ride the chairlift. They would inspect your board for a leash and metal edges. But you found this community of like friends that, my nearest neighbors were pretty far away, real countryside living, and those friendships were really meaningful. So those sports became the way to get together with the friends that kind of gave you an identity, a community. I carried that through high school. But I say that all of that to mention I almost died from a staph infection in my early 20s, as a result from a knee surgery gone bad after a snowboard accident. And I spent 2 months in and out of the hospital on my deathbed for most of that. Lost 50 pounds, couldn't walk without a walker and all that.
Sheesh.
And that was the moment where I came out of that and I started calling friends, and I was like, I need to work in something that I care about every day. Every day from now on, I need to be working on something. I don't care what it is. I don't care if I get paid or not. I need to go work on stuff that I care about. That those 2 months kind of was an emotional reset of sorts where you're just like, okay, what am I doing? What should I do next? And it was like, I need to work in something that I care about. So that was the pivotal change for me kind of as a person.
What were you working in before that you felt like you needed to change? Was it like I got to shift from what I'm doing to something better, or was it just like I need to focus?
I needed a willingness to focus. I had been undergrad, and this is a I didn't know what I wanted to study. It took me a while in undergrad to figure it out. I figured it out, studied that, didn't know where that could take me. So I was like, oh man, I don't know what I could do. What kind of career could I pursue with a physics degree? I guess I'll go to grad school. And so I ended up in grad school. And what made sense after grad school or for after undergrad from a physics degree was like engineering and materials. So I ended up in material science and the mechanical engineering department. But I didn't know what I was going to do with that either because I wasn't really an engineer. And what do you do with a materials degree? Wasn't really clear to me. So I had this like, I don't know, interest in things that I'd like to study and learn about, but I had not enough applicable experience. I wasn't doing hands-on internships along the way and things and so, you know, I'd been doing stuff that should add up to a career someday or whatever, but I didn't know what I was going to do. And that, turned into a realization I just need to get doing stuff that I care about. And for me at that time, what I cared about more than anything was snowboarding. I'd worked in shops. I'd been teaching since I was 12 and competed. I'd done a bunch of stuff, but I was like, I need to go work in the snowboard industry for a few years after I get out of the hospital bed and just, do that. And so I ended up being very fortunate to make some phone calls to friends and landed a fun job in the snowboard world for a couple of years. And that was I didn't piece it all together. This is all in retrospect. I wasn't that wise at that time to know exactly what I was doing, but the dots started connecting for me in my decision making process about career decisions after that. And I could trace it all. I could trace this back if I write a book someday. I could trace it all the way back to decisions I made in junior high school. It's obvious in retrospect that the decisions I made that defined the next period of my life were all based on kind of what was meaningful to me. Me being an individual, a part of a friend group, a part of a sport and an activity in a community and maybe national and global markets when I got into product development and things.
Well, and were you doing product development at what snowboarding company were you at, by the way?
I started working for K2. I was working as a tech rep. So for those in the ski and snowboard world, they'll understand what that means. K2 in a handful of other brands as a rep group out of the Mid-Atlantic. And then after a year there, the rep group moved to Burton, got pulled in with Burton Snowboards. And so Burton became the driver of the sales rep business. About a year into our work with Burton, the guys at Burton realized that I had a degree in engineering. I was on their sales team. I happened to speak Chinese, and the guys on the product team were like, "You're the tech rep, and you have all of that going on. What's that all about?" And so that brought me in house at Burton. I got pulled in by the product team.
Very cool.
On product development manufacturing.
Well, a lot of us snowboarders have just gotten very jealous of your experience being at Burton. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
It was a dream come true in many ways. An honor for some random kid from upstate New York to land in what was at the time a very globally dominant brand, like the real driver and innovation in the space. Not that they aren't anymore, but some of the patents that really protected that early stage for Burton have expired, which has been great because the rest of the brands can utilize those innovations now as the IP is expired. But back then, yeah, man, like not only like the origination of the brand of the snowboard world, Burton was really a driver, but the culture and the dominance of them from a product innovation standpoint was a real honor and just good timing for me where I was at. Got lucky.
Yeah. That's very cool. I've got quite a bit of snowboarding equipment upstairs, all with the Burton logo on it. So it's a great brand. Well, so now I'm really curious. Burton, you were doing tech sales or tech rep stuff.
Yeah.
You move in house to Burton, probably doing product design and that. And what's the path now? You're running your own company. You've designed your own products. You've launched your own products. You're selling into consumer and defense, I think. And so there's some. I mean, you might be selling batteries, but I expect consumer and defense product characteristics, qualities. Those are not necessarily exactly the same. You're in two different worlds there. What's the path that took you from Burton to where you're at now?
Yeah, try to do it brief summary of
We got
that.
time. We got time.
Yeah, I ended up helping set up a lot of manufacturing in Asia. A lot of the early ski industry and snowboard industry product innovation was driven out of the ski industry out of Europe. And
Mm-hmm.
the ski manufacturers in Europe knew skis better. And so they knew how to make snowboards better, right? And so that was just kind of the center of the product development manufacturing world for the ski industry. But those who wanted to really innovate, and this is kind of maybe at the advent of more affordable manufacturing in Asia and a lot of the innovation that came out of Asia, helped set up manufacturing, helped set up teams and processes. Spent 11 years on the ground in Asia myself.
Which part?
Oh, I was in Taiwan for a few years, Shanghai, Shenzhen, Xiamen for a while, in and out of southern China and Zhuhai and
Very
western
cool.
China and all over. But I called Shenzhen my home for a long time.
Beautiful place. I've been there a few times and always love going back.
Strange. Shenzhen's a giant metropolis now of, I don't know, it's probably 15 or 20 million now. I was there for the first subway line and a lot of the development of, like, there was these disparate districts in the city and they kind of all grew together.
Yeah, because 25 years ago, it was nothing like it is today, right?
Yeah, it was very different. I remember seeing all this dirt and holes in the ground, and now it'd be like, I don't know, walking into Manhattan and having been there in the 1800s. Just go like,
Yeah.
wait, all this, but it happened really quickly. Like every day was go out the door and see new buildings, new highways, new malls, new this, new that. So it was an exciting time. But Shenzhen is super cool because you can go surfing in Hong Kong or outside of Shenzhen. Good skateboarding around the city because it's all
Wait,
paved.
there's surfing over there?
Yeah. Well, Hong Kong's got Big Wave Bay is probably the most famous little spot.
I didn't know that.
Dameisha and Xiaomei outside of Shenzhen has decent waves. Not very good. We'd go down to like Hainan or whatever. But I could also, there was an indoor snowboard place in Shenzhen. There was an indoor snowboard place in Shanghai. And there was direct flights from Shanghai and Hong Kong to Sapporo. So we could go to Hokkaido. And for anybody that's been paying attention to northern Japan snow, that was, if I'm going to work in the snowboard industry, to be able to like go direct flight to Hokkaido and spend some days in the powder up there just made it all worth it. All of the factory days worth it. So yeah, I ended up in product development manufacturing, was in close contact with the founder of Skullcandy for a long time. And as they started growing, got offered a position to set up their office and team there. So built out quite a large team with Skullcandy. At the time we were making about 100,000 headphones a day.
Yeah.
So business got big fast, and
Shenzhen's a place for that, right? Shenzhen just electronics,
correct,
manufacturing capital of the world, pretty much.
Yep. So we did a lot of work, and ended up back here in Park City because of that role. I was able to get that all set up and established, and come back here and run the product organization here. So
how long were you with Skullcandy? Because they grew from nothing into a huge player.
Yeah,
I joined player, right?
Yeah, definitely the defining brand of the headphone space. I happened to work in a radio station and was like doing some, I was DJ on air. I didn't do a whole lot of performance DJing, let's say, but I would spend a lot of time with headphones. I can go back to high school mowing lawns with my Sony Walkman and Young MC and cassette tapes and stuff. I spent a lot of time with headphones, which is what led me to reaching out to Skullcandy in the early days. But Skullcandy redefined headphones because back then it was Sony, Panasonic, Philips, black and gray headphones. That was it. And then suddenly you had iPod and then the iPhone, and like you took your music out the door with you and you put headphones on your head and you walked around in public. So of course they should have some fashion element. And so the fashion part of it came first. And then it was like, oh, we need to engineer great headphones. They need to incorporate good mechanical, electric, acoustic, human factors engineering into these fashion-driven type headphones, and layer on the good acoustics and audio quality. So it's really like headphones, people don't give them the credit, are
no, I mean, we see
complicated engineering project.
And we see everybody these days walking around with the big over-the-ear headphones. I've got a couple pairs sitting around in my office. I won't fly without them anymore. But it used to be like the headphones I remember as a kid. And man, you mentioned Young MC. Like I'm thinking of sticking the tapes in the cassette player and rewinding and all that. Putting those like flimsy little wires with the foam pads, like the really light foam pads. Like that was the cool thing to have.
It was game changing. I mean, like, if you're going to spend hours, whether it's like on a bus or on a plane or an airport or on a lawnmower, man, some good music makes that time so much more enjoyable.
Yeah. And I think I'm just thinking back to my childhood. I think we had a pair of kind of thick over the ear headphones, but they came with the record player and the amplifier and the, like, it was the home stereo
Yeah.
cabinet and everything that was like, that was the only place they plugged into, right? So
Yeah. I just set up 3 turntables for my son is 12 and a musician. And I was like, let me get all my vinyl from grandma and grandpa's house. I got so much vinyl and record player, turntables and my old Gemini mixer and stuff. It's set up in the basement and he's yeah, getting to listen to a lot of yeah, good music. There's something to the quality of listening to music from, a turntable.
it's been a while for me.
MP3s kind of ruin the quality of music in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I know it's been a while. But I've found myself on Amazon and other sites a few times. I'm like looking at turntables, maybe put one in the corner over here, but
It's something
haven't
nice
pulled the
about it.
trigger on it. Yeah, that's cool.
So
Yeah,
I didn't finish your question. I went through the Skullcandy experience and the growth and private to public and all of that. And that was meaningful. I mentioned some of the through line here is like the things that were meaningful for me. For me, Skullcandy was a way to contribute to the action sports world, actually, because Skullcandy supported athletes around the world to the
right.
tune of hundreds of, athletes through sponsorships and paying for their competition fees and hooking them up, let's say, but really channel a global market in audio. Like anyone who has ears, listens to music, has got an iPod or an MP3 player, and channel all that to support this kind of global space. But the next move for me was a company called Owlette.
Oh yeah.
I'll pause for a minute. I went to work for Owlette down in Salt Lake, which was, a pulse oximeter sock for babies. I was a new parent, and I was like, okay, the meaningful mission for the next part of my life is to help take care of new parents because this is really hard. And Owlette was on
How
on
far
the
along
coolest
was
mission.
Owlette when you joined them?
I missed the early days, but I joined like a week before the product launch.
Okay.
So I was in as it became the building time. That before that it was prototyping and engineering time, but it was like let's build a business and all the operation side of that was my responsibility, which was different hats every month.
Oh, that's cool. I think Owlette, if I remember correctly, I don't know, 2009 maybe 2010 if I'm not mistaken. I was still in an office downtown Salt Lake City, and I feel like I had a phone call or it might have been an in-person meeting. It's pretty fuzzy, but I think
If you haven't interviewed
think
those guys, I think Kurt Workman would be a great interview.
I should, because I think the last time I talked to them was when they were very first, and I might be mixing up time frames and stuff. I think they were very first looking for somebody to write their first patent, and I must have missed out on that opportunity for some reason. But
I was
yeah,
the
they were
old
really
guy.
early on.
So I joined in 2015 and the product launched, it was October 2015, maybe early November.
You were the gray hair, is that what you're
But
saying?
I was the old guy, right? And at that time, I'm in my like maybe late 30s or mid 30s. Yeah, mid to late 30s. And so the to be the guy with all the experience, right? It did feel like I shouldn't be the old guy in here, but it was a really like vibrant young group of people that just had the mission above all else. Like it was hard, and there was hard technical challenges and hard building challenges and hard
Regulatory
regulatory stuff, like all sorts of
Yeah.
stuff. And so I would let Kurt tell that story.
But you were the guy. You had legitimate experience, lots of it, for exactly what they needed.
Yeah, enough to see us through the first, I'm not going to say how many tens of millions of sales, but like get us to a point where we had an operation and all the functioning parts were working. So still, that was back in the days when IoT was not like a well-established off-the-shelf product. There was a lot of technical stuff, the baby side and the cloud side, and then you had hardware and software that a parent needs to use on a new baby that
a
needs
bunch of stuff
high,
with Raspberry Pis all over the place, probably.
and Keurig in those companies were doing IoT for coffee makers, but like the service level requirements for a parent who's worried about their child when they're going to bed are very high, and those service level requirements didn't exist in the IoT space back then. So it required a lot. I should tell the stories, but man, so many.
I'll have to reach out to him.
Yeah, I'll mention one thing. Just try to key in on this if you do talk to him. Is like I think it's about every 1,000 units that we sold, we had a parent call up and say, I think you saved my baby's life. And when you're selling, at some point, you're selling thousands a week, you're getting phone calls and people showing up at the office saying like, hey, this was our experience. And like, man, it just made for meaningful work. And mission above all else just solves a lot of problems. If you don't have that, you can deal with lots of problems with a certain amount of, I don't know, deep breaths and grinding of teeth and things. But when the mission drives all else, if ever just gets to the table and says like this thing is hard, this thing's broken, how do we fix it? And that included investors and everyone on down willing to like go to the ends of the earth. for that brand and
That's
company and
cool.
that mission.
And there's something special too when you're able to see the fruits of your labor, because not every business, not every type of, I think law is one of those places where we do a lot of good work, but to recognize exactly what was the result of what we did is sometimes hard. People are like, "Oh, what's your ROI as an attorney?" It's like, well, I saved you from $1 million lawsuit, but how do I convince you that that was the case?
Yeah.
So to be able to be in a business and a setting and community where you can see that you're actually making a difference, that's huge. Huge driver, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, the reason I joined was I went down for an interview, and I had another offer on the table at the same exact time, which would have led me out to the beaches of Southern California, which might not have been too bad. But they had these testimonials on the wall, like printed out, you know, emails and stuff from parents who were in the beta testing program. In the beta testing, biased sample here, but the beta testers for Owlette had often had like bad outcomes, lost a child, things like that. And so
They had a
these
reason to be in the program.
in the testimonials that they were sending, having used the product now, were like, I pausing here because they are tear jerkers to this day to read those things and say it. I was just like, I'm in. Like I just walked up before I was even sitting down in the conference room with those guys. Like I'd read those on the way up the stairs, and I was like, I'm in. Like whatever it takes, this is the thing.
They knew this, right? They're like, everyone we interview, we're going to set them in here. We're going to show up just a few minutes late, give them time to read these things. And lo and behold, the interviews go so much better after everyone's read a few testimonials.
Yeah, it's like sign me up. Don't worry about anything. Let's just make this thing happen. So,
that's awesome.
That led me to the confidence around product development, supply chain, materials, and then the operations side. We had to deal with finance, accounting, and setting up ABLs in Silicon Valley Bank, and like customer service, and all of those other parts of the organization. So I kind of had touched all parts of product development and manufacturing by that stage. And when the idea for Paleblue came up, it was like, this is good. I think I know enough finally to be able to take on the challenge. Like I knew my way around P&L, and I knew my way around legal and accounting and finance and all the stuff that you would need to, for me, confidently. Some entrepreneurs go into it like straight out of college. Kurt, straight out of school, like that without the experience. I needed a couple decades under my belt before I could start my own thing. But the idea of Paleblue was like, it's too good. I'm gonna have to go.
What was that? What was that nugget? Like, how did that come about? I mean, you're in the middle of this. You're building the cool company. You're making a huge difference. What was the point at which you said, this is something different, and I gotta take a swing?
Three things. The first call I made after I got hired at Owlette was a guy who was better than me. And I said, here's my first hire because I want to make sure there's somebody even better and smarter and more effective than me on this team and operations. So I was able to hire a guy who's still the COO down there. And I was like, that bought me some space, because otherwise you couldn't bear not to make sure that mission was on. Eventually, years later, it would allow me to consider the idea of stepping away. And there was a company, the ocean cleanup system, a guy named Boyan Slot.
The ones that put the huge things out there and they capture, and now they're doing rivers and ocean, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, getting at the end of rivers. So the ocean cleanup system launched their first prototype. I'm going to guess now because I haven't checked lately, sometime in early 2018-ish. And there was this girl, Jessie. I hope Jessie hears this someday. Jessie worked with us at Owlette, and she was the design side, and she ran sustainability in the office. She made sure we did our best from the sustainability front. And we were talking about that ocean cleanup system. And I was like, Jesse, someday we're going to create something somehow that, can buy one of those things and just have it out there with our brand on it. And we'll just have it floating around the ocean doing good work.
Very cool.
It was just like a comment, right? It was just like a random comment. I don't know where it came from, but it had.
Do you know that's such a cool project? I don't want to detract from what you're telling me, but do you know the handle for that ocean cleanup? Because I follow them on
I think it's
Instagram.
Ocean Cleanup System is my first
They're
guess.
Totally
but I don't
worth
know.
following it for our audience if you're not. It's just it's a meaningful project that's going on, and just so happens that it aligns really well with, I guess, your transition into starting up Paleblue.
Yeah, so that was kind of the seed of, I think, at least in my memory, the seed of like the hope, desire to do something globally on the sustainability side. But I think the moment that I knew I had to do it, my co-founder and I just got some samples made. We had this concept. We said, we know how to make samples. We'll we'll get some prototypes made and see how it goes. And I get these products and charge them up and let my kids go use them. And I charge them up when they're done and I hand them back to the kids. And I was like, wait a minute, we knew we could put it together. And there's a lot that goes into managing lithium ion batteries properly with electronics and getting that all integrated down to AAA. Like there's a lot there, but like the basic experience of it is like, I need a battery. Charge a battery quickly anywhere I am. I don't go to the store. I don't buy anything new. I don't throw away any trash. I'm not left hanging when I need a battery and I can't find one, or I scavenge one from some other device in my home. The experience is like validating it. Plug it in, charge it, use it. Don't go anywhere, buy anything, or throw anything away was my thought. And I was like, no, this is like too good of an experience from a validation standpoint. When you use it, you're like, I don't have to buy single-use batteries ever again. And you're just like, every time I use them to this day, it's like, don't go anywhere, buy anything, or throw anything away. And that experience was kind of the like, oh no, we're gonna have to pursue this.
Well, so was
there's no
this
going back now.
You just like, hey, let's try a few things. Maybe I'll try making some batteries, or were you pretty focused? You had a design plan. You're like, hey, I think we can do batteries better. Like, what was kind of the theory behind going into the batteries?
As a new parent, you run into the need for ever more batteries in the household. It's like Hot Wheels tracks and stuff, right? This is something that I think everybody in product development does, is like try to figure out what could be, meaningful innovation. I assume software guys are the same. I've never asked software guys, but like I assume it's the same. It's like, oh, what could be done better here, right? So this is like, Paleblue is like one of dozens, if not hundreds, of ideas that we have kicked around with friends over the years. Like, wonder if this, you're at trade shows, you're seeing tech, you're like in factories, you're seeing what could be done. But this one came from like, hey, we use a lot of batteries as new parents, and everything else in our lives is being made rechargeable now. And the rechargeability, the speed of recharging, the lifetime of those batteries, like everything's gotten so much better. And when you go to the store, all you see is like walls of alkaline batteries. And they do a little research and you go, oh my God, it is bananas how many single-use batteries are used. And it's, 10,000 pounds an hour just in the US alone.
It rivals straws and plastic bags, probably.
Way more. I don't know, on the weight basis, maybe.
Weight probably is more, right? But
yeah, you're talking like 1 million tons a year in single-use batteries. And if they all got recycled and it was efficient to recycle them, you could maybe justify it. But they're not getting recycled because it's not efficient to recycle them, so they're getting landfilled and incinerated. So it's you're like, oh, this is a huge problem. Everything else that's new modern electronics has two general trends. One was lithium ion, because that's getting better and better and better. And the other is USB charging, as convenient as you're going to get. So you get best in class chemistry in attributes and best in class charging experience, which at the time you had micro USB and lightning ports. It's like the USB-C legislation was coming in Europe, and it was like, okay, if we just brought those together, that might be a rechargeable battery that's so good that people will actually go use rechargeable batteries.
And you have, like, I know this isn't meant to be a product demo, but I have this pack that I bought, some AAAs, and it comes with the cord, charge all four of them at once. Like, I'm not here to necessarily promote your product, but I literally use it. I had a remote battery go out on these lights behind me. They have a little remote to them, and literally one went out about 30 minutes before our
good timing
thing. So I'm like switching batteries between the two remotes, and I'm like, literally without thinking about, our conversation coming up, I'm like, look at my batteries. I'm like, well, I wish I had one of these Paleblue batteries that was the what is it, 20 remote battery. It's, I just don't have that. But yeah, it's like you've done a great job. I use these all the time. I mentioned to you before that earlier on the call, my son rotates through I have several AA's, and he just rotates through those when he's playing Xbox and stuff.
Yeah, my expectation would be that those batteries far outlast the Xbox controllers.
Yeah,
I don't know. I've never done any research on how long Xbox controllers might last, but they're going to get beat up a little bit. I'm still using
teenage boys. They don't last as long as they should.
Yeah, I'm still using batteries that we made in 2019, and they're outdoors 12 months a year in the mountains of Utah. Like, it's cold, it's hot, and they're out there all year round, and they're still going.
So how long have you been doing Paleblue then? Is it since 2019? Is that, or when did you?
Yeah, I stepped out of Owlette in 2019. We launched the website in Amazon Jan 1 of 2020, right before COVID.
Okay.
Or during COVID, depending when it all started.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did a Kickstarter in late 2019.
How did that
go?
I
might have stepped out of Owlette in late 2018. I think it was early 2019.
How did your Kickstarter go?
Great. Yeah. I'm going to try to say this without saying anything bad about Kickstarter. We had an awesome first 10 days of 30, like on our way to like record setting kind of raise. And then somehow the Kickstarter algorithm decided we were not worthy and we got put below the bottom of the discovery list of below dozens of campaigns that had $0 raised. And we were sitting down there with hundreds of thousands of dollars raised. And so it basically shut us. So I don't know what happened at Kickstarter, but we spent weeks, begging, pleading, yelling, trying to get those guys to give us the attention we needed. But it was, we did it to validate that we weren't crazy, because when you create something new, you might be onto something or you might be crazy. And, creating a $30 pack of AA's when Amazon Basics were out for 20 cents a AA could have been crazy, could have been a terrible idea from a business standpoint. So we wanted to go out and just see outside of our friends and families. You can share samples and people that are going to give you good feedback.
Right.
Almost no matter what.
These are the best thing in the world.
Yeah. It's hard to get
will you pay for them off the shelf?
Exactly. But, as alkaline batteries have gotten more expensive, we're, anywhere from 1.2 recharges to call it 5 recharges to get your money back versus a name brand alkaline at retail. Like a 9-volt nowadays, $450 per battery, and ours is, 15. So that's 4 charges. A C or D battery, could be a few bucks, and ours are 3 times more. CR123 is $6 or $7, and ours is like 8, so it's like 1.2 recharges to get your money back versus a single use. And so the ROI is there, and I think for most people they see that, they understand, and the more often than not we hear like they understand the product and they say, oh, I thought it'd be more. If they don't know the price first, you describe the product to somebody, it's like, oh man, that sounded like that was going to be really expensive. $30, that's not bad. And I mean, I don't know how many times your son's used them, but like if you were pumping in single use.
Oh, we rotate. I literally have 2 here that are charged. He swapped a few out the other day. I don't know if it goes a week or 2 weeks with them, or sometimes if he has friends over, that's a lot less time.
Could be dozens of times per year. Could be hundreds for some kids. But if that was hundreds of alkaline batteries, assuming you bought them at bulk during the holiday, you might get them for.
Well, but pricing aside, right? Pricing aside, there's that impact that we all know it's there, whether we think about it deliberately or whether we just let it simmer in the back of our mind. We know it's there. We know it's an issue. So, hey, you keep saying when you do this. Did you start this with somebody else helping you, or what did the evolution of your team look like from kind of concept to where you're at?
I have a co-founder who also specializes in consumer electronics product development and manufacturing. His claim to fame was, helping launch the Motorola Razr back in the day.
Great.
So he's been around and at it. But we've got a team of, call it 7 of us now. A lot of guys.
What's the size of the company? I don't know if that's a revenue or some other metric. How do you guys measure the size of your company now?
I tend to think of it in terms of how many batteries we've sold and how many batteries that could replace. That's because that, like, if it's really about the impact, it's like, well, how many? Because if every battery we sell can replace 1,000 alkaline batteries, every battery we sell means, it's a bigger company and it's revenue. But the revenue question gets complicated because the services work that we do as well. So that doesn't represent the impact of the battery side. But yeah, we've sold about 3.5 million batteries. And so if you do the math on that, let's say if they get used 1,000 times each, that's 3.5 billion alkaline batteries that weren't needed to be used. If they get used 100 times each, getting to 1,000 times is once a week for 20 years. So it's a long slog to get to 1,000, but let's say that maybe they get used 100 or 200 times. It's still, 350 million batteries that are prevented, on average, call it double A, 20 grams. It's a huge impact on the amount of waste and the dollars saved for, original concept, new parents.
Yeah.
But like for anybody who's using especially products that require a lot of batteries, whether it's an Xbox controller, a professional musician, or someone in a using trail cameras. We work with Vital Grounds, a grizzly bear research group, and they use tons of trail cameras. I don't know, we've got a battery powering STEM research thing that's related to NASA and Jet Propulsion Lab, and they send our battery powers the onboard computer and a payload that goes up to the stratosphere. And they're sending balloons up to the stratosphere, 99,000 feet, with our batteries powering the onboard computer. And you're like, I don't know, like kind of neat, special, cool stories that happen all around. I could go on for an hour just on these little cool stories that we hear. But that's how I had to think of the growth. Obviously P&L and investment and all that other stuff, we have to grow, and we've been, probably on average growing north of 50% per year since started. So we're still on that trajectory, and that's meaningful. The work is still ahead. Like as much as we've done, the number of alkaline batteries still being bought and sold and discarded every day
is obscene.
Obscene. It's a good
Yeah.
word for it.
Well, I just looked at the time. We've been chatting for a while now, and I really appreciate it. This is a really cool, fascinating kind of origin and evolution story. I'm curious though, as far as maybe a breakout moment that you've had, like, is there a time in the either, maybe it's with Owlette, maybe it's Paleblue, maybe it's somewhere else in your journey, a time when you kind of felt like you were running up against a wall, you were kind of, every direction you turn, there's obstacles perhaps, and then all of a sudden, lo and behold, you make that magic move, or you bring on that team member, or, you find that investor or customer, like something that kind of just unlocks a new trajectory for you. Have you had any of those experiences along the way?
I would say it's probably not this way for all, but I would hazard a guess that I'm going to make some general statements here that probably apply to most entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. It's like, when are you not running up against a wall? Like you're running, it's this or that. We ran into COVID. We went out for a fundraise the day that Silicon Valley Bank collapsed. We went out for a fundraise. Then when tariffs hit, we were True Value. Our biggest customer was True Value when they went bankrupt.
Oh wow!
It's one random event after another comes and like kicks you.
Maybe I should have renamed this podcast, instead of the Breakout CEO, it'd be the Breakdown CEO.
Yeah,
we'd have so many stories.
We all want to tell the hero story of like, that's the moment that things changed. For us, a lot of it's been a grind with lots of really meaningful wins along the way. Getting into REI was really cool. Ace Hardware has been a really good partner.
What is it like to get into one of these? Like, if it's REI or Ace or True Value before they went bankrupt, like what is that process for you? Is it just going out and pounding the pavement, making the phone calls, or explain that to me?
Some are one phone call, some are people bring us an opportunity. REI was many years of trying to get to the buyer. They shut down their corporate offices during COVID, and you couldn't even. I knew guys that worked with REI for 20 years that like, and they couldn't find our guys. So like a lot of them are like, you're like, we want to work with them, we're gonna go get it. And some are like opportunistic. They walk up to you at a trade show and, this is amazing, we should do a test. So we've got some really cool opportunities that just came to us. Some just show up in your inbox. I'll point to one. We just launched a partnership with a company called Ernie Ball. And if you play guitar, you'll know Ernie Ball. And if you don't, you won't. But they invented rock and roll guitar strings in the 1960s, like third generation family business in guitar accessories. And they called up one day, said, hey, we want to make better batteries for musicians. And so we launched this partnership, made better batteries with them. They walked us into Guitar Center and Sweetwater and all this, and our batteries are being used by Red Hot Chili Pepper, Jack Johnson, Nine Inch Nails, Miley Cyrus, all these artists. Like it would have taken us decades to have the ability to go even like find the guitar text for these artists, let alone just walk us into all those.
I think you announced this on LinkedIn recently, right?
We did, yeah. It's been about a month now, and it's just been incredible. So I'm going to call this a breakout for us, even though it's too early to say. But like to partner up and use our tech stack to solve an issue that's existed for decades for musicians, better batteries for them specifically.
I don't want to over or understate this, but the issue is just like battery consumption, right? Like,
well, more than that. Battery consumption for sure. You want your batteries to perform the same as in rehearsal as they do on stage. So stability of performance matters. Alkaline batteries, the voltage decays and so the performance changes over time.
What does that do to the performance?
If it's you putting it in electroacoustic guitar, your amplification of the signal from your pickup to your preamp and amp in your speakers is going to change. And so the audio is going to change throughout time.
And actually, the battery voltage like there's not some isolation circuit that normalizes.
Not mostly not. No.
Interesting.
You'd have to put other circuitry on board that the product would, and then you'd have to like tune that for a specific alkaline. You'd have to tune it for a specific alkaline battery, not for any. There's a bunch of different ways musicians will mess with an alkaline battery. They'll either pre-treat it so that it hits a voltage plateau where it's generally stable, and then it gets thrown away at the end of every performance.
Really?
You often on stage, like backstage, there's a bucket from every performance, and all the batteries from all the in-ear monitors, the microphones, the pedals, the guitars, everything comes out, boom, in the trash, because you can't risk starting tomorrow night with
on old batteries,
yesterday's batteries. So, and there's other issues with alkaline batteries that have to do with noise. Signal to noise ratio gets in the music gets beat up because there's electrical noise that's coming out of the battery because it's not designed to minimize.
So this is
noise.
Super technical.
It gets pretty technical, but it's like it's a very clear target of like, here's the things we want to solve, and because we have sophisticated tech stack on top of a sophisticated battery cell. Like we can do things that your average battery company can't or won't. And so that phone call from Ernie Ball was like, a godsend of sorts, because you're like, oh my God, yeah, we knew musicians were super users. We got a lot of outreach from musicians, but we didn't understand the details because we weren't three generations of family business focused on the problems of musicians and solving those. And so
did they introduce you to some of these technical issues that you hadn't known about in detail before?
I mean, we knew stability was important. We made a decision early on to like regulate our voltage to have a stable voltage, and we knew that that was really appreciated by certain users. Because if you have a regulated power curve, you have a stable power curve, and then you have stable performance in the device you're using. So it's like
I'm going to borrow this.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm going to borrow this. If I ever play my son in Xbox and win, which would be a rare moment, I'm going to be like, well, the secret is pre-treating the batteries and the alkaline stability of the batteries. I'm using it in the sweet spot, and I'm going to try to give him some technical explanation that would totally apply in the music world, but maybe not to
just
Xbox controllers. But
there's a opportunity there to at least plant a seed of doubt in his mind that he's
exactly.
So we've had a number of phone calls like that along the way, a number of kind of fortuitous, serendipitous people walking up to us at a trade show or send an email. It happens pretty regularly, I guess. It happens regularly. Hey, we're doing research in the Amazon. We use a lot of trail cameras. We can't take the canoe down the river 2 days to get more fuel. So we want to be able to charge batteries in the field, and we're using your batteries.
And then they just pair that up with solar and.
Exactly, yeah. And so we end up through our 1% for the Planet membership sponsoring lots of nonprofits that do work like that and supplying them with our solar chargers and batteries, and it's like that drives the meaningful work in the kind of cultural glue of the company. But how cool is it to think about, like, I don't know, I get emails after the balloons come down from the stratosphere, and I'm like, just tell me before. I want to come out and I want to see this. But you get these really cool stories, bat researchers in Miami using them in these acoustic devices for studying bats. Like,
wow.
Cool. All right.
Yeah, you're making me think. I've got a good friend. He listens to the podcast. So Nate, this is for you, Nathan. His wife studies. If I got this right, his wife studies bears in northern Italy or something like that.
Cool.
And you're making me wonder. I wonder what kind of batteries they got in their equipment. So if they don't have the right kind, if they're not using Paleblue, he'll know where to get them from here.
Have the Europe office send him some samples for sure.
That's awesome. Well, this has been super informative. I think we've just touched the surface, to be honest, of some of the.
I warned you, I could go for days.
Oh, well, maybe we do a follow up sometime.
Yeah. On chairlift.
What's that?
We can do it on the chairlift.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, anytime. I mean, once we get some actual snow this year.
Yeah.
It's coming.
Good point.
It's coming.
Good point.
Love to. But yeah, no, this has been super informative. There's way more to the battery world than I would have known, and that's one of the reasons I got into. So I actually have an engineering background, electrical engineering. I didn't use it much except to go into law school and become a patent attorney. And when I talk to inventors about their inventions and the businesses they're building around it, there's always so much more about. It's not just like, I mean, maybe it starts out, well, let's do rechargeable batteries, but you get into it and there's just so much more depth, technical depth, business depth to all of these things, which is really where the fun starts with business, right? The business opportunities, the business strategy comes in when you start to get into those deeper moments. And same with the innovations. That's where the innovation, you can't just be like, I'm going to make a rechargeable battery and get a patent on it. No, but if you're getting patents on the control circuitry, and I haven't looked at your portfolio, I don't know what's in there. If you're getting patents on the control circuitry for, lengthening stability timelines and stuff like that, that's where it gets really interesting. And there's, still real opportunity, I would expect, to create meaningful innovations, protect those with patents if that's your philosophy, and build a company with a strong strategy around that. So
I'd
super
say
cool.
There's far more opportunity ahead than there's been progress before in the battery space. Not just chemistry, it's the full tech stack approach. So it's like the roadmap doesn't write itself, but the funnel just keeps filling up with opportunities to make really meaningful innovations.
And we haven't even really touched on any of the defense work. I bet there's a whole different level of technicality on that side of it.
Very much so. Far more than we ever thought we'd end up working. I just had no idea. And then Yeah, that was the same phone calls that we got from Ernie Ball. We got it from DoD. And whenever, just recommendation for anybody, if you're in a position to have a phone call from anybody that says, "Hey, do you think you could do this?" Just say yes and see where it goes. Because man, saying yes just sometimes is the smartest decision. Although it's not the easy one, but it's always turned out to be the right decision for us. It's like,
yeah, and there's a whole world of grant funding and research and develop that's I've seen entire companies powered for decades off of researching, projects and stuff for the government. Not that that's necessarily your business model, but it's a part of some people's business model. So
totally, yeah. It's for us. It's an opportunity to say fix a problem, fix many problems that have existed for far too long, and use our engineering capabilities to go do that. And so, yeah, meaningful work. Totally different than the sustainability efforts we do. On the other hand, the sustainability outcomes from this project will also be on that scale.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, so parting words for another, a lot of CEOs we work with and that are out there, they're experiencing the same growing pains, growing opportunities, maybe not in the same order all the time, but, any parting words of advice or tips or words of motivation that you want to leave with our audience?
Man, it's too simple to say don't give up. If you give up, it was probably not the right project from the beginning, because if it's the right project, you'll never give up. For me, it's like, because it's got the core of meaningful impact on many levels. It's like there's no giving up. You're gonna fight through the bank failures and the government policies and shutdowns and all of the challenges, because it's like, what else are you gonna do? You're not gonna give up on the best decision or the best opportunity and the best idea you had in your career. You're just gonna go for it, and you're gonna say, like, we gotta solve it. We gotta solve the problems and keep moving forward. So keep moving forward. Sounds cliche, but
no, I love it. I mean, there's everybody is saying startup success is usually just persistence long enough, right, past all the problems to actually see some of the success. So there's an art to it.
I believe that's true. Dodging bullets along the way helps, but yeah, if you're alive long enough, then the phone will ring with an opportunity, or you get on the road, meet people. Rick Alden, the founder of Skullcandy, used to say, like, if I'm talking, I'm selling. Like, it sounds crazy, but like, if you're talking, you need to sell the vision. You're not selling literally. You're selling the vision of, like, hey, this could be amazing. Imagine the world that we could create together. And you could argue Skullcandy created all of the audio innovation after, because it just sparked innovation in a space that had been stagnant for decades. And yeah, we hope to do the same.
Cool. You've been a part of some fun things, and I really appreciate you coming on the show to share some of these with us. And love hearing the insights and getting to know you better. It's been a real pleasure for me. So thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, same. Appreciate you reaching out. And I as soon as it stows, I do mean let's get on a chairlift and we'll get out of the office for a couple hours.
Let's do it. I'll see if I can keep up. So until then, for our audience, thank you for joining us today on the Breakout CEO. It's been a pleasure to have you. Hopefully you've picked up a few of the nuggets that Tom has shared today, and we're happy you're along for the ride, and we hope to see you again next time.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you, man.
Be sure to follow or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. And if you enjoy the show, a rating or a review goes a long way. Our mission is to promote the stories of breakout CEOs in scaling SaaS, e-commerce, and tech companies to equip peer CEOs with valuable perspectives and confidence. Thanks again for joining us on this episode of The Breakout CEO. I'm Jeff Holman, and I'll see you next time.